Rogers TV.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel Mba. I'm going to be joined by two amazing guests. Liz Ohle will be giving us a little bit of insight into what the hockey life looks like when you start hockey later in life. And picking up some skills, we'll be looking to chat with Captain Master Mariner Eben about the upcoming nautical science skills competition taking place at the Marine Institute. So sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by the wonderful Liz Ohle, who is going to be talking to us about the game of hockey and what her life experience has been with it. Liz, thanks for joining me.
I'm really happy to be here.
So I'm so excited to tell people your story. For those of us who don't know, and I got to learn about your story recently when I posted on social media saying I wanted to talk to someone about the Professional Women's Hockey League that recently launched, and everyone and anyone who was talking about women in the sport of hockey mentioned you. So Liz, what was your journey into the hockey game?
I was not born in Canada, so hockey was not part of my life from a very young age. In fact, skating was not either. But then getting to know people, I came here when I was 47 and began to know people who played hockey. I'd watched some hockey before. I actually lived in Minnesota right before coming here. Minnesota is the biggest women's hockey state in all of the U.S. And so there was hockey going on. And my partner at the time played hockey, and so I would go and watch games and learn a little bit about it. And then when we moved up here, I kept watching games and then met people and then was invited to play. Why aren't you playing? So eventually, with some people that were very thoughtful and compassionate to someone who had not skated more than a tiny bit before, I got out on the ice.
Okay. And so what was that like? Because for most of the people, when they think hockey and hockey players, they're thinking of first kids start in Timbits and they work their way up. You started in your 40s. What experience was that like?
I started in my 40s, and I was on the ice with people, with women who could play, and I was the one Timbit.
Oh. So you were the Timbit.
I was the Timbit. I mean, I was concerned with things like, how do you open the gate to step out on the ice? And how do you drink water from your water bottle when you got this cage over your face? You know, those were my big issues. I have water dribbling down my... And I got out on the ice, and my memory of it is that I stood there. People whizzed by me, and the draft of their skating by kind of spun me around. And so that's my memory. I'm not sure if it was quite that beginner, but it was pretty beginner. I had no clue. I had no clue.
So then you said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and do this. How did, starting off with the people who could skate around you, how did you eventually, I guess, get your hockey legs in the game?
Well, a useful thing to do was get on the ice as much as I could and just get used to being on skates. And the rinks had lunchtime skating, and I would go and I would skate just to get used to what it felt like, to feel my balance, to not be terrified. And so I did that as much as I could. I took a couple of lessons they had, power skating for women.
Yeah.
I first started in 1999. I'm 71 now. Yeah. And so I started in 1999. And then the next year, a group of women started a women's league in town, basically for women that were new to the sport and hadn't played. So I joined that league and played with them, and that gave game experience. You know, you go to power skating, the first thing they do is teach you, like, if you're down on the ice, how do you get back up?
Okay.
Well, that's useful.
Yes.
That's very useful. And so having game experience was really fun and in a league. And I'd played some games, some pickup games, just recreational games with groups of women, but I'd never played in a league where you have the same group you play with every Friday night, and you build a little competitiveness, and there's score on the scoreboard. It was the first experience I had with score on the scoreboard.
Wow.
With me growing up, because of my generation, in the 60s and 70s, there weren't opportunities for women to do anything except intramurals.
Okay.
Now, obviously there were some places in the US where I lived where more advanced training and experiences were available, but I lived in the Midwest, and we just didn't have that kind of thing. So I hadn't competed on teams. I hadn't had any coaching in any kind of sporting activity, though I was always one of the leaders in gym class, you know, but I just didn't have a chance to develop any of that. So it was fun, but I was making sense of things that a lot of people with more opportunity, women with more opportunity, would have had as girls and have in that Timbits hockey. Yeah. Learning how to cope if someone knocks you down, even if it's accidental. Well, here I was in my 40s, someone knocked me down, I get pissed off. I would get mad.
Absolutely.
And so I didn't have those experiences of how you cope with the ups and downs of team play.
So you fell in love with the sport. You decided this is something I want to enjoy doing. And then now you're part of something that I think is really cool as someone who's never played hockey, been curious about it, been absolutely deathly afraid of being hurt by a puck, so have stayed off the ice. So can we talk a little bit about your Sunday league?
So what happened in 2006, I acquired an hour of ice time, which ice time in this town is hard to come by.
Yep.
And so I had this 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon ice time, which to me was prime time. It wasn't 6 in the morning, it wasn't 11 o'clock at night. And I saw a need in the metro area for adult women to have an opportunity to play. And that women's league I'd talked about that started in the year 2000 initially was that. But over time, people got better. Yeah. And they were younger, and so they'd had different experiences growing up, maybe had more athletic ability, but also had opportunities to develop skills. So there really wasn't a place, there weren't many places in town at all for women to play hockey except that Friday night league. So I get this hour of ice time. I was psyched. And that's what I did. I started inviting women who didn't know how to play, maybe weren't confident on their skates, and made a game out of it and invited people. And I had some rules at the beginning. I had a waiting list like crazy. Wow. And so I needed to kind of move women through. As soon as they found another opportunity to play, I kicked them out of the Sunday game because I wanted to bring in somebody who didn't have a chance anywhere. And that's relaxed somewhat, where some people whose skills grow. I have two different lines, and some for the more beginners and some for the somewhat faster.
Yeah.
And so there's a little more space in there, but I always make room for women who are beginners.
See, I love this story, and I love it so much because there's a chance for people like me who are curious about the sport and about how we can get involved, especially now that we have the Professional Women's Hockey League, seeing women rise through the ranks to play with their co-league with the men. So for women who are like older who want to play, you recently were part of a documentary that will be airing soon. Can we talk a little bit about that as to how people can be involved who want to know more about this, to get more information so they can show up on Sundays ready?
Well, so in the 2021-2022 season, a friend of mine, as we got to know each other and she learned about this hockey that I organized, she says, I think there's a story here. And she came and watched our game and put together a funding package to be able to create this documentary. And she said she wanted to do it. We sat down and talked. I helped her with kind of the philosophy and different things like that so she could write grants.
Yeah.
And then one day she calls me, she's like, this is Vida Nairn.
Yeah.
And she says, I got the money. We need to talk. I'm like, okay. I still had no clue. And so we sat down at a coffee shop. This was during the pandemic, right? And she says, okay, well, I've written into the budget. We're going to have 2 camera people. We're going to have sound people. We're going to have an assistant director. And I'm like, this is real. This is like serious. And so here we are, this game of beginners. We're not hotshot hockey players, but we're having a film made about us. And so this film is now having its first public screening on January 27th. It's a Saturday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. at the Bruno Center on campus.
So I know that I'm going to be seeing you on the 27th from 7 to 9 p.m.
That's great.
I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story about what your hockey journey was like, how you've now taken that to involve women like myself who have watched the sport but never gotten on the ice to bring us into that hockey culture. Thank you so much, Liz. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. I love talking about helping women be able to play hockey.
Well,
That's
I can't
fun.
wait to see you Saturday the 27th
Awesome.
at the Bruno Center, right?
Thank you. Yes.
We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I am now joined by Captain Eben March of the Master Mariners of Canada. Captain March, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you because off screen, you and I have been getting really into what the Master Mariners of Canada are, an upcoming skills competition going on at the Marine Institute. So I think for our viewers who might be like me, who knew nothing about any of these cool things that I now know a little bit about, we will start with, what is a Master Mariner?
Master Mariners are people who are really captains of the ship, most people refer to them as.
Okay.
But when you receive your certification from your port state or from your state, so for example, Transport Canada, you will say a Master Mariner, and I'm qualified to be a captain on any vessel anywhere in the world.
Okay, so that's super cool if I ever get to the point where I own a ship. And I'm very excited to know that I now know someone who can help. But going back a little bit, so what was your journey to deciding to become a Master Mariner?
I was always around boats, I guess, as a person from Newfoundland and things. I was involved in a Sea Cadet program growing up, and that kind of got me interested. And it just kind of took me down the path where I eventually ended up at the Marine Institute and did a nautical science program. which was a 4-year program where at the end of it I was qualified as a junior officer.
Okay.
And I worked my way up through the ranks of a junior officer to a senior officer and eventually as captain of a vessel,
Okay.
which I did for a number of years before becoming an instructor at the Marine Institute.
Okay. And so now you're an instructor at the Marine Institute, but you're still with the Master Mariners of Canada.
So the Master Mariners of Canada, they're a volunteer organization
Okay.
that has, they accept people of all ranks, of course,
Okay.
and members volunteer their time to promote the industry, the marine industry, to promote people going, become junior officers, people to become senior officers. They do a lot of mentorship with cadets in the program, similar to what I was. Master Mariners of Canada, we're an advocacy group. We also offer our expertise to regulatory agencies like Transport Canada, those places. So we're a very active group, and we call ourselves the Master Mariner of Canada, even though many people in our organization are not actually masters, but are basically some people, in a case of us in Newfoundland, are associate members, or they are simply people we like to call friends of our group.
Okay. So I'm volunteering now to be friends of the group because
Excellent.
we're going to be talking about a wonderful competition that you use to promote the marine industry.
We do. So the Master Mariners of Canada with the Marine Institute, we use their facilities. They help us a lot put off the event. In 2012, we started a competition for the nautical science cadets.
Okay.
And those nautical science cadets participate in one of 6, or they produce in 6 competitions throughout the day. And at the end of the day, we tabulate all their scores, and there's prizes awarded.
Okay.
For first, second, third, most notably, they receive monetary awards. The money for the monetary awards comes from sponsorships. Most years we have anywhere from 20 to 25, 26 sponsors, are all marine companies who potentially will hire some of these cadets as cadets and then maybe as regular officers on board their vessels. The skills competition, when it started in 2012, we had 64 cadets take part, and that continued on up until most recently. This was an odd year where we only had 50 cadets take part, but there might be something to do with the numbers at the school. Either way, we still have 7 teams of 7. They they start on a Friday night, actually,
Okay.
where they do a marine emergency duties competition,
Okay.
which in that case, it's all the duties that they would do and train for to go on board a vessel, even in their first sea phase.
Okay.
And then on Saturday morning, we start bright and early again at 8 o'clock, where they complete the other 5 competitions, which include seamanship. They learn how to tie knots, like you talked about. They learn how to do a bosun's chair or hang off a stage
Okay.
for painting and things.
Okay.
Then, of course, they'll also do ship maneuvering, which is actually something traditionally a captain would primarily do,
Okay.
but we're allowing the cadets on the simulators at the Marine Institute to do this, and this year they're going to be doing it in Belfast, where they're going to turn the vessel and back it into a dry dock after entering the harbour of Belfast.
Okay.
We're also going to be doing, besides ship maneuvering, marine emergency duty, besides marine emergency duties, there's emergency management,
Okay.
where they're going to be put in a scenario, possibly hit ice, possibly had to figure out how to deballast or do stability, which is a lot of math.
Okay.
So math is very important as well when you're doing these things. We do offshore operations competition, which is to do with our offshore industry. Primarily in previous years had to do with towing, towing icebergs we've done.
Oh.
We've done emergency towing, like for example, if you're with the Coast Guard. This year we're going to do mooring a rig or anchoring a rig.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting for them. They're going to be doing things in all these competitions. Traditionally, would be done by senior officers,
Yeah.
and we're allowing the cadets to pretend that they're senior officers or play the part.
Okay.
It always amazes every year how well they do.
Yeah.
They study for this, they practice, they ask for additional help, and every year they excel and continue to surprise us.
Okay.
Every competition, there's 3 judges. The judges most times are not of known other students. They come from the Master Mariners of Canada organization.
Okay.
They're all volunteers as well, and they volunteer their weekend to meet the students, to chat to the students, watch the students, what they're doing, award marks, so that eventually one of those teams are going to become the winner. And when we started the competition in 2012, there was a gentleman, and he used to spend a lot of time at the school as a volunteer, helping the cadets, Jim Thorpe. And so Captain Jim Thorpe wasn't from the province, but he came and he lived here. And then soon after, just before the competition, he had passed away. So we named the top award after him.
Yeah.
And the top award comes with a very healthy monetary prize this year of $2,000 each of the students will receive. And then, of course, there's second and third year besides. Companies, they always promote other awards that we pass out to them. Leadership is a big one we promote. We always give one student that shows the most prominent amount of leadership or best qualities of leadership. They receive an individual award. We give an award for safety. Everybody knows in the marine industry, or anybody involved in the marine industry knows that safety is a huge thing. So we really promote safety, and there's a separate award for that. We give a separate award for seamanship. We give it a separate award for ship maneuvering as well.
Wow.
So it's a pretty busy day. It's a pretty big competition, and it's really promoted by ourselves, but companies love it.
Yeah.
Like I say, we have 25 sponsors lots of times. They use it as a way to meet students, to kind of educate themselves about the different students, and then later on they might actually interview the same students and offer them jobs as cadets on board their vessels. So that's a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really interesting day for us all.
Okay. So is this a one-day thing or a weekend thing? How long are the students involved in this?
The students become involved, possibly, I guess to some degree, the minute we do the kickoff, which this year was in December 1st. We did the kickoff, and then the application process opens.
Okay.
So then about a month later, we pick the teams. The teams are completely randomized. It's done by computer. The only stipulation is that each team must have a certain number of first years, second years, and third year or fourth year cadets. We really try to mix them up. Most times the teams do not even know some of their people on their teams, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So it makes the teams really do that teamwork, which you really want to see on board ships. And these days everybody is talking about teamwork amongst groups, right? So it's really good that way.
Okay.
Once they get their teams, we make them sit together at their introduction, and they really start to chat. And then it's up to them.
Okay.
Then they start to organize and decide who's going to take part in each competition. We only allow 4 on a team to take part in any particular competition. Everybody else is kind of there as the cheering on team or the cheerleaders.
Okay.
One thing as well that happens on the weekend that we do this, because it starts on a Friday and runs all day Saturday, we introduce high school students to the team.
Wow.
So the Marine Institute, this is a big thing they do, and it's great for recruitment. They look through the people that have applied for nautical science as of January, and they pick, this year is 12 students that will come to the Marine Institute, and they will be embedded into the teams to take part. And the teams, all the competition judges always include extra points according to how much you involve the high school student in your activity.
Okay.
So they always get them doing some things, explain to them what's going on, and help them understand what's happening, which the students love. It's great for the Marine Institute. So far, I believe we have a 100% turnover rate from those that take part in the competition to those that enter the program.
Okay. So this is so cool. I want to know, basically as a viewer watching this happen, can people come and watch the competitions?
We encourage it. We ask people if they would like to come, and then we have lots of people that show you around for certain parts of it. Sometimes there's certain parts you can't see as much as others because in the simulators, obviously you can't be in the simulator while the students are there.
Yes.
But, we encourage people to come up to the school, and if they want to look at it and see what's going on, it's always welcomed. We've had lots of people come through in the past. The nice thing about the competition, and especially the students that come in as high school students, like we have one really good success story of a person who came in as a student from PEI, as a high school student, entered the program the following year, and he's now sailing as a junior officer on a cruise ship somewhere. Last time I checked, I think he was in the Caribbean. Oh. So that's a great success story. Okay. And anyway, so he did really well, and he wasn't even from our province. Huh. So there's lots of stories like that. That's just one I can think of.
So I get you for 1 minute. So how can we get our viewers to know where we're going to watch this competition so we know where to show up?
Oh, it's at the Marine Institute.
Okay.
It's on Ridge Road, of course.
Yeah.
We do it on Saturdays, is probably the best time, anytime between probably 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And if people show up, we usually have people in the area that can kind of take you and show you around, because it takes place on all the simulators at the Marine Institute for the marine world and for the navigation world. So there's 3 simulators at Center Marine Simulation that we use. There's a simulation up on the 3rd floor, and of course the rigging room is down the bottom part. So that's the reason why we really need people to show people around and things. But we encourage it, and we're really happy to see people take part and look at it and see what's happening. And the marine industry for the merchant marine, a lot of times they don't have a lot of information about what we do. So that's the reason why we do it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you guys at that competition.
Perfect. I look forward to seeing you.
All right, and we'll be right back, everyone. Well, that was an absolutely amazing time I had with both our guests. I want to thank Liz for sharing her story and how hockey has been part of her life. If you're interested in finding out more about the Golden League, please make sure to check out the public screening of the Golden League documentary taking place on January 27th at the Bruno Center. You can find all details at the bottom of the links posted. And if you had fun learning about the Nautical Science Skills Competition, make sure to check them out at the Marine Institute website. We'll have all the details listed, how you can check it out, what the skills will be, and how you can be part of it next year if you're interested. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you all again next time.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
We want to hear from you. Provide feedback on this show or find out how you can get involved. Call, email us, or scan the QR code to take our quick survey.
This year, the NHL All-Star Game is in Toronto.
Here in my house.
In our house.